Students, this is the video for lesson 1.1, rigid transformations. Okay, so let's start with the learning target so we know what we're talking about. I can describe rigid transformations from a pre-image to an image. So rigid transformations are translations, reflections, and rotations. This should be relatively review from 8th grade. If not, it's a good little gist of how this works. Okay, so I can describe those things from a pre-image, so these are your vocabulary words, to an image. Pre-image means before a transformation. An image is after that transformation has taken place. Okay, so I can talk about it before and after. I can perform those transformations, and I can transform figures using those transformations. So those last two should sound very similar. Okay. We're not going to use the booklet here because I can't download it on my tablet. So I'm going to give you the rules. Okay. If we're talking, well, let's start from the very, very top. We have a pre-image, which, fun fact, will always be x comma y, a normal ordered pair. Okay. There will be an arrow that represents the transformation. So whether that's a translation, reflection, or a rotation depends on what we're talking about in the moment. And that goes to the image after the transformation has taken place. Okay, so let's make ourselves a nice big table here, and let's give you the rules. X prime and Y prime is another part of the notation that usually means that a transformation has happened. Don't worry about it, you won't see it ever again. Okay, but let's get started. First thing we'll talk about is the transformations. Or not transformations, translations. Excuse me, those words are too similar. Okay, we can have a translation. So if I have my little triangle can go up, it can go to the right, it can go down, it can go left. A translation is just a shift. Okay, it means I'm just taking it and I am moving it in a direction. Okay, so if I want my translation to move to the right, my pre-image is always going to be x comma y, and my image, or my rule, we'll put it over here, is going to be x plus a number, the y value. That's if I want to go right. Left is x minus a number. Right, so this follows our pattern that we've probably learned from 8th grade, that our x value goes along the flat axis, x-axis, meaning it goes right and left. So obviously x is going to be the thing that changes if we're talking about going left and right. If we're talking about going up and down, though, my y value is going to change and my x value is going to stay the same. So if I want to go up, that is x by itself. It's not going to change at all. Up is positive, so I'm going to go up however many it tells me to. Okay, by it I mean delta math. Down be about the same thing, except it's y minus a number. Okay, putting this into practice with actual numbers, I promise, will be easier. That's translations. reflections, it's not about going right, left, up, or down. It is about what am I reflecting over. So if I'm reflecting over the x-axis, then my pre-image is going to be my normal point, xy. What happens when I flip across the x-axis is, I'll just try and draw a little picture for you here. Okay, if I've got a point up here, if I flip it across this line, it ends up down here somewhere, right? Because I'm mirroring it across this line. If I folded it across here, they would line up, okay? So you can kind of see it in my picture, or we can kind of assume from my picture. My x value didn't change. I just went straight down. But my y value flipped. I went from positive to negative. And that's exactly what my rule says. Okay, if I'm flipping over the x-axis, my x value is going to stay the same, but my y value is going to change sign. So if it was positive, it becomes a negative. If it was negative, it becomes a positive. So x stays the same, y changes sign. Okay, and it's the exact opposite for if we're reflecting over the y-axis. My pre-image is xy. I transform, my x value switches sign, my y value stays the same. Okay, those aren't the only two lines we care about. We care about the line y equals x, and we also care about the line y equals negative x. So the line y equals x, I'll use my picture again, is this, we'll put my dot somewhere else, is a diagonal positive line. Perfectly diagonal, okay? So if I'm flipping it over this line, it's going to end up down here somewhere. Okay, if I'm flipping it this point, it's going to end up over here. Our rule is I switch my x and y value. So x becomes y becomes x. They just switch. Y equals negative x is almost the same, except we have that negative in there. So my rule ends up being negative y, negative x, which is I switch the signs on the numbers and I switch the numbers. Okay, almost done. Rotations. I can rotate 90 degrees, 270 degrees, or 180 degrees. But our direction matters too, because I can rotate 90 degrees up this way or down. So I got 90 degrees clockwise, which is the same as 270 degrees counterclockwise. 180 is the same either way because it's a half turn. So we end up in the same place whether we go clockwise or counterclockwise. Then if I've got 90 degrees counterclockwise, that's the same as 270 degrees clockwise. So because of this, we end up only having to memorize 3 rules instead of like 5, which is nice. And the rules are as follows. For 90 degrees clockwise or 270 degrees counterclockwise, my pre-image is xy. What ends up happening is my y and my x switch places, and my x value switches sign. So we switch numbers, and x switches sign. Okay, 180 degrees becomes negative x, negative y, which means I'm just switching the sign. And 90 degrees counterclockwise or 270 degrees clockwise, they're the same thing. My rule is negative y, x, which should look a lot like that one. And we switch the numbers. And y switches sign. Okay, so hopefully the words over here help you a bit. Hopefully you wrote down everything so that you can do the example problems on the back. I will go through a few with you. So here's the example problems. This is what a lot of your homework looks like. The reason we have these rules is because you no longer have a picture. Okay, no picture. We have some pictures, right? Like you will see these on your homework as well, but the majority of your homework looks like this with no picture. Obviously you can draw a picture if you want. Feel free, please. If it helps you, I'm good with that. But we have these rules. We should try them out a little bit because I think at the end of the day they take less time. So I'm being asked to do a translation, right 2 units and up 4 units. So first of all, we need to know that right means the x value and up is the y value. And then the other thing is we need to know that right means positive. Like if I'm going right on the coordinate plane, if I'm going right on a number line, that's numbers that are getting bigger. If I go left, that's numbers that are getting smaller. So right means positive and up means positive. So I'm just going to add 2 to my pre-image, and I'm going to add 4. So 2 to the x value because we said the 2 was the x, and up is the y. So I add 4 to the y value. And what I get is negative 2 plus 2 is 0, negative 3 plus 4 is 1. And then just like that, I'd hit submit. Okay. What is the image of 1, 2 after a reflection over the line y equals x? So I know that my rule for y equals x, I'm just looking at a paper that I'll have on Canvas for you. My rule for the line y equals x is yx, which means I switched the letters, right? We're used to x comma y. So I'm just switching the numbers. Okay, I switched the letters, I switched the numbers. 1, 2 becomes 2, 1. Okay, just like that. So I'm just using the rules. I don't think any rule is harder than another. It's just a matter of knowing what you're being asked for. So I'm being asked to rotate 90 degrees counterclockwise. 90 degrees counterclockwise according to what we wrote up there and papers that you'll have on Canvas. My rule for 90 degrees counterclockwise is negative y x. So from our normal x comma y, that means I switched the letters and it looks like I'm switching the sign on the y. So my y value is going to become negative 6. And it's also going to be put in front. And my x value is not going to change sign, but it's going to be put in the back. So -5 stayed -5, but it went to the y spot. 6 became -6 and then went to the x spot. And I hit submit. Okay. So, when in doubt, remember transformations, not just translations, are super visual. You're always welcome to draw yourself a picture of the point and figure out where you think it's supposed to go. Okay. Okay, email me if you have any questions. I'll see you in class when I see you. Have a good day.